Good Sunday morning, Northeast Ohio, and this is the first weekend of the Biden administration. The transition of power did take place peacefully on Wednesday, albeit under unprecedented security measures. The sky was clear, the air was fresh and cold. Bernie Sanders can attest to that. But fresh as well was the idea that maybe it was time in Congress to set aside the political rhetoric and come together to work for the good of the nation. I spoke with Republican Congressman Dave Joyce right after the inauguration about that.
We can't continue down this path we're on. It's not us against them. We're one country. And today would be one of those days where you celebrate the victory of, say, one party over another, but then you also get together and start to figure out how you can get things accomplished over the next 4 years for our country. And we got to stop looking at it as us against them and we'll work together as we're one nation.
I also spoke with Democratic Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur about this, who shared the same sentiments. Joyce and Kaptur both easily won re-election to their seats last November by 20 and 27 points, respectively. Those numbers are actually below the average. Get this, in Ohio, the average margin of victory last November in congressional races was 29.3%. That number and these boundaries, part of the reasons that Ohio's congressional districts were found to be unconstitutional. The process of redrawing them, though, begins soon. Over the last decade, Ohio's congressional districts have become well known for their odd boundaries, even earning their own nicknames. Marcy Kaptur's Snake on the Lake district thinly stretched from Cleveland to Toledo, and Jim Jordan's Duck district for its obvious waterfowl comparison. The inkblot boundaries divided up some Ohio counties, like Summit, into 4 districts. They even sliced small cities.
It's so bad that the city of Avon actually is split into 3 congressional districts.
The courts ruled Ohio's districts to be unconstitutional in 2019, gerrymandered by Republicans to benefit Republicans, and ordered them redrawn. But the U.S. Supreme Court would later rule that federal courts shouldn't be deciding such cases so close to the 2020 election. Redrawing the seats is a process that starts next month in Ohio with the results of last year's census. As it was, Ohio voters in 2018 already approved a new process aimed at more fairly drawing the districts. The argument at the time was Ohio's Republicans in Congress received 52% of the vote in 2018, but controlled 75% of the congressional seats. And it's not just Ohio. A court-ordered redraw in Pennsylvania saw their map go from this to this, and in turn, the legislative split went from 12-6 Republican to an even 9-9.
The plan for redistricting and reform is to make districts more competitive.
So legislators are less concerned about primary elections and more concerned about general elections, a move thought to create more of an era of legislative cooperation like we're seeing this week in Washington. Sutton says there's a problem with that thinking in Ohio, though, as the new plan limits the number of counties that can be split, how many times they can be divided.
The flip side of that is that you wind up with what we call packing, which is that you pack voters of a particular party all into one district.
Which one can argue is what we currently have. So while the state may vote 52-48% Republican, it's a number heavily skewed by geography, with the rural counties going heavy Republican, 9 of them voting for President Trump with more than 80% of the vote, and the urban cores going equally heavily Democrat. Well, we will soon have a rare open seat in Congress as Congresswoman Marcia Fudge gets ready to take over as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Senator Sherrod Brown, the new chair of the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, will preside over the hearings, which he tells me he wants to make happen as soon as legally possible.
There are rules about giving time for noticing the committee, calling the committee, all that. I can't officially do that till the 21st, meaning the hearing would be the 28th, we think.
And once Secretary Fudge is confirmed, she will then resign her seat in the House, at which time Governor Mike DeWine will set a date for a special election, which could come as early as March. Well, today is Championship Sunday in the NFL, and sadly the Browns came up short in their quest to play on this day. But the odds are good for them to return next year. And Governor Mike DeWine tells me by the time that comes, odds are good also for you to be able to legally place a sports bet on them in Ohio. Before Governor Mike DeWine even took office 2 years ago, his view on sports betting was clear.
It's coming to Ohio whether people want it or not.
In the time since the Supreme Court opened the door for legalized sports betting outside of New Jersey, it's popped up in all the surrounding states but for one, Kentucky, and they're not far behind. And with mobile sports betting available roughly an hour away, it shouldn't be a surprise if there are Browns fans who take a drive east to Pennsylvania before Sunday's kickoff. That's because once their phone recognizes they're in the Keystone State, they can legally place a bet on the game before returning west for kickoff. It's something Governor DeWine said they know people are doing. Money he would like to stay here.
Look, it's coming to Ohio. We have people who are betting all the time in Ohio online, and they're going to do this. And so, allowing us to keep some of this money for education in the state seems to me to make sense.
Last spring, the House passed a bill that would have cleared the way for sports betting at the state's 4 casinos and 7 racinos. A sticking point was oversight, whether it should be under the Casino Control Commission or the lottery. Failure to act, though, before the end of the legislative session in December means starting over with a new legislature and 3 of the primary sponsors no longer in elective office. Still, Governor DeWine tells me he is hopeful that 2021 will be the year.
We are where we are with the betting. And so there will be sports betting come to Ohio, I suspect, this year.
With Democracy 2021, I'm John Kosich. Enjoy your Sunday. Stay safe.